summer's so juicy. Things are juicy. So when I think of manifestation in summer, I think it's a really, really active time.
Let yourself be in that authentic energy. You can really super speed some of your manifestation process too.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. So whether you have completed our summer challenge or are deep underway, I feel like this conversation today is going to help spark and inspire how to utilize the energy of whatever season you're in to enhance your unblocking work with To Be Magnetic. Lacy and I are diving into what the energetics of summer is like. For everyone who is in the opposite hemisphere and experiencing winter, we touch on that as well. But you can kind of hear from here how to utilize the energy of this season, how to connect with your inner child during this season, and give you some food for thought about whatever season that might be coming up. How can you use the nourishment of that season to apply it into your unblocking work, into honoring yourself, into creating spaces of expansion? It really goes hand in hand. And it's kind of a beautiful way to make a ritual out of each season. I hope you all are enjoying whatever season you are in when you are listening to this. And if you wanted to join our summer challenge, or you just been thinking about joining the To Be Magnetic work in general, our summer sale will be ending July 16th at midnight PST. So if you've been thinking of joining, this is going to be the lowest prices of the season. Get in now before the sale ends. And don't worry, if you wanted to do the challenge, we're going to leave that open until the end of the summer. So you have plenty of time to jump in and unblock in those 5 weeks with us. And the manifestations and magnetism that is coming through for people and myself throughout this challenge is seriously profound. So be sure to take advantage of our summer sale and join the challenge with us.
And now a word from our partners.
If you have not heard of Arma colostrum, let me tell you why it has quickly become my absolute favorite superfood that I've been taking on a daily basis. Arma is an unrivaled nutrient powerhouse. It has 400 plus pure bioactives that are natural molecules that promote healthy functions throughout the body. They include a host of protective antibodies, prebiotic compounds, strengthening peptides, amino acids, trace minerals, immunoglobulins, tissue growth factors, antioxidants, and other natural immune factors that work synergistically to enhance your health. This superfood is actually the first piece of nutrients that we receive, that all mammals receive from their mothers within 48 to 72 hours after giving birth. It is that nutrient-dense supplement to really help our bodies thrive, function, and grow to the best of our abilities. There are 5,000 plus studies on this stuff that really show at any age, taking and ingesting colostrum can help our bodies function on the highest level. Now, I started taking this over the summer and pretty much noticed results immediately. Bloating went down, digestion got better, and my immunity seemed to be a lot stronger. I would come across people with colds or sicknesses thinking I'd be coming down with it in a few days, and it seemed to have really supported my innate immune system. It is completely sustainably sourced from a family-owned dairy farm. They only use the surplus of colostrum, and they're able to remove any unnecessary compounds from the colostrum, like casein and fat, which is part of the reason that some dairy can be inflammatory to some people. I'm someone that's very sensitive to dairy, and anytime I have real dairy, I always wind up taking a lactate, but using colostrum, I've never had any issue with it at all. And in fact, it seems to protect me just as well as the dairy pill against some of the dairy that I eat. And part of the reason that that is happening and why I feel like it's been so effective is because it's helping to rebuild your barriers. We talk about having a really strong barrier protection in the lining of our mouth, our sinuses, our lungs, our gut. Our barriers house 80% of our immune system. It's the first line of defense against everything that we inhale and ingest from the outside world. So when you take Armra close to eating, inflammatory foods or being in an atmosphere where the air quality isn't as optimal, your barriers are tightening to help protect you from everything else going on. So this is one of my absolute favorite superfood products out there on the market. I think it is fantastic. I really see results from it. Feel free to ask me questions if you're curious about it. And we have a discount code for you guys. You can use the code TBM for 15% your first order. Again, that is code TBM for 15% off. And if you're interested, you can get the subscription. That way you won't ever run out and you can always have that immune support.
All right, on to the episode.
Today we are diving into summer energetics. Now, whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere, at least once a year, you're experiencing summer. And summer kind of has like a different, I almost feel like it's a fingerprint separate from winter or fall or spring. And while you can manifest at literally any time of the year, it's interesting how you can kind of use the cycle to help it cultivate your manifestation practice in a new way. There's a really good quote by Jill Winterstein of Spirit Daughter. She said, "The cycle of the sun represents the cycle of our lives and reflects the natural flow of energy moving inward and outward. There are times to grow, times to pause, times to shed, times to learn." And I think especially recent episodes we've had this year with Janelle, where she's talking about the integration period, doubling down on a challenge, which we all just went through collectively as a community, and then having that integration period. Lacy, how do you sort of see summer as this energetic season, and what themes do you see come up?
What I love about manifestation and summer energy, summer to me represents a fire energy, which if I think about something I always say, just totally based on seeing so many clients, I'm like, Aries are the fastest manifestors. It feels like that kind of an energy where things can really speed up for you. Obviously, the summer has a lot of celestial things happening. But what I think about when I think about manifestation, when we're in winter, for instance, just like any traditional spirituality, paganism, cyclical living, it's so much about the death and inward and really, really taking that time to let the things go, clear the space, process. But what I love about summer energy is things are on fire, you manifest a lot faster. This challenge we're doing, for instance, it's that inner child energy. It's that playfulness. Even if you have ebbs and flows of wherever you're at in the summer, even if it's a challenging summer for you, thank God you have this challenge, but it's also about reconnecting with that, right? You have these longer days representing just more space, time, and energy and light behind everything you're doing. So when I think about summer energy, I'm thinking about sexual energy. I'm thinking, and it doesn't have to be literal, but it is that like Kundalini energy, that creative energy, dreaming. You have such big dreams in the summer. Anything's possible. You're feeling into that light space. So when I think of manifestation in summer, I think it's a really, really active time. This is your time to really get into that inner child energy, especially what we're working on here and healing the wound, like taking that core wound through things and putting that momentum behind it to really watch what can show up for you after summer and manifest. So I love summer energy. I'm somebody who has to live by the ocean no matter what. It's like, or a river. It's like a strict of mine. I've figured that out. And so for me, summer represents like you're going down to the beach, you're in that ocean energy, you're hanging out more, you're hanging out later, you're having bigger dreams. Like when you think of in paganism, midsummer, right, that people celebrate, it's that time of playfulness and playing tricks on things and mystery. To me, that's that sexual energy, that falling in love energy. And Like we always say, love and money is always really connected, which no matter what you're manifesting, they are connected to that. Even if you're manifesting during this challenge, a better relationship with yourself, there's something there connected to love. So really that midsummer energy represents that beautiful balance. So whatever your wound is, you're taking through this challenge, really, really harness this energy and let this be wherever you're at. Even if you are in the Southern Hemisphere and you are in an internal state, also let this work for you, that challenge in that way. What about you? How do you see it, Jessica? Especially as an East Coaster, you guys like really come out of hibernation.
I know. Well, it's so interesting because I also think of how what your programming and memory around the seasons are. So like if I think of winter as a child, that was magic. That was like, oh, cool, like Santa's coming. I get to be with family, time off from school. But the hibernation of being inside because the snow and it's so cold and it's so inward and like cozy up and cover up and sweaters and jackets and all the things. And then summer to me is like the explosion of the outdoors, or almost the merging with the outdoors in so many ways. I just remember being outside as many hours as I could. And it's interesting, you know, even this past spring, walking through LA and watching different flowers bloom, I'm like, oh yeah, my mom used to take me on walks around like my grandma's house and our house. And she'd point out like, those are the lilacs. Do you smell them? Look at the colors. Like we would do like a little nature trail walk. And it's like this witnessing of this rebirth that kind of comes up and you get to merge with it. And I think there also is something about, you know, symbolically the sun as this spotlight. It's out longer. The colors feel richer. I mean, during golden hour, it's just like the coolest colors outside and sunset is so gorgeous. And I think metaphorically or symbolically, it's the same thing. Like the spotlight's on you to allow yourself to feel seen. All the work that you've been doing over the past year, all the unblocking, it's like, allow what is crystallized. It's like allow it to be birthed and in the sun and experiencing the elements and all of the things. Especially we're in such a digital age where people are like glued to their phones or their laptops or whatever. It's like, let's reconnect with the roots of like every tradition under the sun since the beginning of time, which is like having those outdoor rituals and being connected, and allow yourself, like, where do you not feel comfortable to be seen and put yourself out there? Where are you not just jumping in that lake or pool? You know, invite yourself to do that. Acknowledge the growth. You don't have to push anything, like accept exactly where you are and be seen in that.
Yeah, I love that. It also makes me think too, getting back into that sexual energy or that pleasure energy. Again, this is metaphorical. This is the bees with the flowers, you know, that are happening. But I think about stone fruit, right? It's just summer's so juicy. Things are juicy. And when we were kids and in that inner child, of course, depending on what our situation was growing up, but had we have been having a healthy parented experience or caretaker experience, you're barefoot, you're in a juicy energy, you're in an imaginative energy at all times. Like, how can we really bring that into our practice during this challenge, into our DIs? This is like hyper sexual metaphorical, but Call Me by Your Name, that movie, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but to me that represents like the epitome of summer, like summering, watching him come into his like truly authentic self in such an adolescent childhood experience. And everything is so juicy and watery and explorative and creative. And again, I don't want to focus on like sexuality. I'm letting that be a representation of, like you were saying, spring is the rebirth, you know, and summer's like the digging into all of the pleasures of life. And that's really what children do. That's their whole existence. It's exploration, imagination, total presence, and completely digging into all of this, the sensory of life.
And it's so interesting too, because if you think about the unblocking work and going in, there was a stat that I found recently of when you're in really present play, you're in a hypnotic state. And so that can super speed. If you're playing soccer, or like just running around in the backyard, or, you know, some game in the pool or whatever it is, it can super speed creating new neural pathways. If you have this concentrated effort of unblocking through the challenge, and then you take the time to intentionally play, like let yourself be in that authentic energy, you can really super speed some of your manifestation process too.
Love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, really the juiciness too of the authenticity. What do you authentically crave? Like what speaks to you during this time? Is it a campfire? Is it being in nature? Is it being barefoot? I always yell at Daniel because he is forever barefoot wherever we go. He's always trying to take his shoes off. And I'm like, maybe not the staircase in Silver Lake. Like, let's not do that. And he's like, it's fine. It's nature. I'm like, it's not that clean, but that's fine. He really needs to be in the woods somewhere. But, you know, is it lemonade? Is it barbecue? Is it like the smell of suntan lotion? Like, what are those things that really bring you joy and feel like authentic, connected to you? And I also want to make note for anyone who's like, God, if I think back to my childhood memories of summer, maybe there's a lot of loneliness, you know, maybe my parents work full time and I was stuck at home, or like maybe there was like traumatic events that took place in the summer, or things that don't feel that good. You have the opportunity to rewrite it now. You get to honor your inner child. You get to go out there and celebrate it the way that you always wanted to. You get to give yourself the childhood you always wanted to.
Or that your authentic self has always needed. That's what this moment is for.
Yes. It's so healing. Like I think back, even the past few years, every summer, I feel like I'm in my most magnetic state. My magnetic self feels the calmest to be seen mostly during that season over any other, I feel like.
Gosh, I have to think back if that's my case as well. I feel like I find it in all of the seasons, oddly. Like I have periods of time, but the summer has always been for me the ultimate representation of my authentic self. Even though I'm someone who actually hates heat, there's something about the freedom of it in, you know, mirroring inner child, like Daniel, like being barefoot, saltwater hair, so connected to nature. And my authentic self, though I had, you know, great periods of nature because I grew up on a ranch, but when I was with my mom in the suburbs, I was like playing video games inside of an AC house all day. You know what I mean? Like I've had to do a lot of reparenting around that. That's not my authentic self at all. I even can remember vividly sitting with my cousins, were like my siblings because I lived with them 3 days a week. And all they wanted to do was play video games in the AC. I didn't even like video games really, with the exception of, you know, Sega and like Lion King. I remember I'm like really dating myself, but, and they loved pizza. And I was one of those kids who grew up like loving salmon and ravioli. Like I liked real food. And I remember having to pretend to like those things. It wasn't authentic to me at all in order to fit in, you know, with their friends at their house. So yeah, I love that you said like that this is your time to really touch in who is your authentic inner child while you're going through this core wound and, you know, examining it from all these different angles. It's just such a beautiful kind of transcendental state that you get to look at your authentic self and inner child, that the summer reflects on it, kind of like microdosing. Like you're saying, the colors are richer. Everything's juicy, everything's warm. It's this time that can just like super speed that process and let you tap in and really get in there.
How have you been honoring your pings lately? I've been trying to take a really dedicated look and listen to what my pings are saying and to follow them. And so many of my pings relate to how I'm caring for my body. One of the ways I've been doing that is with Osea's incredible products. So before I jump into the bath or shower, I like to use their plant-based body brush to help stimulate my lymphatic system, get everything moving, circulating the blood. And then once I'm rinsing off, I love their Andaria cleansing body polish. It is one of the only microbiome-friendly body exfoliators I have found out there, and it's rich in their Andaria seaweed, which has amino acids, antioxidants, nutrients to remineralize the skin. It is incredible. And then when I get out, I top it off with my absolute favorite product, their Andaria algae body oil. This stuff is no joke. It is literally the creme de la creme when it comes to body oils. partially because it has that Undaria seaweed in it. It keeps the skin's moisture barrier stronger. It keeps skin looking healthier, more supple. It really, really helps with elasticity in the skin. And it's one of those products that when you put on, it's not greasy. It doesn't sort of like linger and stick to everything. It actually deeply nourishes the skin. And they have all of my favorite products that I mentioned here in a gift box set where you can get a little taste of each one of these items. You can use the code TBM10 at checkout for 10% off your first order site-wide at oseamalibu.com. Again, that's OSEA Malibu.com, and the code is TBM10 for 10% off. And you can also get an extra 10% off plus free shipping if you have your favorite products delivered on repeat with their Subscribe and Save program. So head to our show notes or oseamalibu.com and use the code TBM10. So kind of paint that picture too, Lacy. Like what were some of the things that you picked up in childhood, whether they were connected to your authenticity during the summer or not? And then how did you go about incorporating some of those practices now to create that summer, especially with Teddy too?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I had really the all-American summers, where it was chlorine pools, it was AC houses, TV all the time. And I'm thinking like earlier adolescence a little bit, especially growing up in the Central Valley and Sierras. It's so hot, like over the hundreds often. So it was just like that was the deal. And you enjoyed the mornings and the evenings. But I'll never forget that when I felt the most authentic was when I would be at my grandparents' house. And I can still remember the sound of my grandpa's sprinkler waking me up. And then he'd get up to do all of his farm chores and go check on the chickens and feed them and take the eggs and stuff around the ranch. And I remember the iced tea they would make and us sitting on the porch together and really that idyllic feeling. And it's so fascinating because I grew up when I was in that town, Mariposa, next to the most gorgeous river ever. It's all this fresh snowmelt from Yosemite. Oh. And we hardly ever went there. It was crazy. And even in the winter, we go there every day with Teddy and I and Max. When we're there, we were just there for 4 days and we hit the river every day. And so I can also vividly remember when I went to, I don't know how to say that store, but L'Autan or whatever, they made the shea butter with lavender, but they had fresh lavender hanging for the first time I had ever seen it in person. Cause I grew up not even all I ever ate were supermarket apples. I'd never been to a farmer's market but I didn't have access to that because we were so all American Central Valley. But I remember seeing the lavender hanging and it just my imagination, maybe the witchiness inside of me or the Euro curious inside of me being I want that summer. I want to know what that's like. That came from a garden. That came from France. Such a silly chain, but in my mind, that's how my creativity was running. I was when I'm older, that's what I'm going to do. That was my authentic self. And it's fascinating because when I did manifest my ex-partner, down to a T, the list, I talk about this all the time with him. His mom was Parisian. And so we got to spend 2 summers, one in Corsica, France, and one in Brittany. And when we were in Corsica, it was that you were at the farmer's market, you were getting the salt with all of the herbs. We were staying in a medieval house right above the ocean. It's kind of like Topanga. You drive down 2 miles and get to the ocean. It was funny when Garance was on the podcast and came here to record. I was Topanga always reminds me of Corsica because you're up in the mountains in these old houses and then you cruise down the mountains to go to the ocean. And it's funny because before I had even really, at that time I was 27, so I was aware of this work and doing it. But before I had mastered it, I was already reparenting myself and manifesting those experiences because they were so authentic to me. Walking around with the French woven bat, to go to the market. It was that is my authentic self. It has always been. And I always say this, my ex's mom was probably my biggest expander to touch me into those points. And when I'm often doing reparenting, when we did our challenge, what was it, 2 years ago when we released the safety eye for the first time? And I did that for the first time. And we all put the pictures of what our safe place looked like. And mine was that. It was French and Scotland and the food and the water and the greenery and the nature. And so it's funny how we have this opportunity that Summer's highlighting to really, really touch in with that with our authentic selves.
Oh, I love that so much. And I just want to highlight to anyone, if you feel disconnected from that dream or that authenticity of your summer, Lacy is such a perfect example of like, she didn't have that. She didn't have that expansion. She had a very opposite experience, and she intentionally chose to connect, to expand, to unblock, aligned action, to fill her life and make that her reality. Because I think so many times people think like, oh yeah, that's a dream only someone else could have. If you feel drawn to that, like I even think of Pinterest. I make like mood boards all the time. And whenever I make my seasonal summer ones, I'm like lemon and oysters and crisp pool and blue tiles and whatever it is. And those little things that just like hit your soul in a certain way, like that's your authenticity. And if your life doesn't look like that, you can create it. This work is the opportunity to actually make it a reality. Don't just brush it off that that's some fantasy or that sounds great or traveling to Europe in the summer sounds great. It's like, if that is what is in your soul that lights you up and feels so good and nourishing to you, you have a obligation to yourself to go seek that out and use the work to connect with it.
And maybe you grew up, the person listening to this, with like really unstable, hippie, nomadic parents, and that was really unstable to your inner child. Maybe you're craving the opposite experience that feels much more safe. So just highlighting, like, let this challenge and let this summer bring your authenticity out. We're programmed in so many different ways, especially in social media right now, what our summer should look like. It absolutely should not look like that. Our summer should look like what our authentic self needs, craves, wants, especially our authentic inner child. That is what's going to contribute to our magnetism. By now, you're starting to get the feel for TBM. Maybe you've heard about our workshops and you're interested in manifestation, but you just don't have the time or energy to sit down and do self-help work. We totally get it. In fact, that's why we created the Daily Practice, which is our massive library of self-hypnosis tracks that you can do anytime without having to jump into a workshop. We call these tracks our Deep Imaginings, or DIs. DIs are different than normal meditations because we designed them using a combination of self-hypnosis techniques, deep theta waves, EMDR-informed tools, and somatic experiencing. A fully loaded formula that is scientifically proven to help you clear your blocks and triggers on a subconscious level, giving you the power to actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So if your boss pisses you off, use our trigger DI. If you want to feel magnetic before a party or an important meeting, use the magnetic self DI. If you're feeling anxious or down on yourself or you need help making a decision, we've got a DI for all of these scenarios and more. You can get full access to the Daily Practice inside the Pathway membership, where you'll also get unlimited access to every workshop, tool, and offering from TBM. The tools in the Pathway membership will support you year-round, whether you're in the worst, a rock bottom, or second worst, a rut, or feeling good and you want to keep the magnetism going. In the Pathway, you'll effectively learn how to become your own manifestation coach, all for less than $1 a day. So even if you're not ready to start a workshop, join the Pathway and start rewriting your neural pathways now to create magnetism. Work through your triggers and get closer to your authentic, magnetic self in order to manifest.
And our big summer sale, which you can lock in the lowest prices of the season, is available until July 16th at midnight PST. So be sure to join before then so you can take advantage of the lowest prices of the season. You won't see a sale from us for a while.
Now back to the episode.
What are any summer rituals or things that you find yourself doing in the summer seasons that you might not, because the sun's out longer? Or is it those beach days with Teddy and Max? What are some things that you intentionally can honor that authenticity?
It's so amazing with kids, and I'm actually not good at this stuff. Even having taught at a preschool for a year, I don't know, I'm maybe too business, too Capricorn, whatever. But Teddy really brings out the playfulness. So a really good example was, I manifested this like tub, this incredible tub in our place in Topanga that they have at Monka's Lodge in Inverness. And it's called a center fill tub, and it's humongous. It can fit Teddy, Max, and the baby all in this tub together. And it was my dream tub. And it was the first thing on my manifestation list when we were remodeling Topanga. Walked into one of my favorite salvage places, and they had the exact tub. And so in that, it's such a manifestation. I'm also going to share my manifestation of our stove. That's my favorite stove. That's in Topanga, because we brought our house back in Topanga. It's a 1934 traditional hunting cabin in Topanga. So we really wanted to bring it back to that and honor it. And I mean, it had like meth head blue carpet. Like we had to really do the work to do that. And we in our kitchen, we're like, how are we going to make this not cheesy? How people sometimes do, like, how do we actually make this look really authentically older, but we can function in it? And so we were calling in a 30 stove. His aunt and uncle had the identical one. It was an O'Keefe stove. And I was like, I don't even know where to start with this. And we found it on Craigslist, our exact picture, the exact stove for $300, only one owner. And it was completely refurnished because it had been in this grandma's house her whole life. So when the granddaughter was selling it, she was like, please take care of it. And we were like, you don't even know who you're selling this to. We are the ultimate people who are going to cherish this and take care of it. But I digress. I'll get back to my story. So Teddy's like such a representation of bringing us into that inner child seasonal energy. And before Teddy, Max and I were such workaholics and just so focused on building, creating, doing. Like before I had obviously any team on To Be Magnetic, I was working 14-hour days. It was my full existence. So if I wasn't shooting, I was writing, I was editing, taking clients, like it was the full existence. And now with Teddy, she's really anchored us into, we're either gardening, we're at the beach, or like yesterday with the bath, she loves taking a bath with me. And we were like, let's do spells in the bath together, because she's in Waldorf. So she's like so in puppetry and creativity. And I was like, go grab, because Max has, rehabilitated our entire acre with native plants indigenous to Topanga. We have like 7 different types of sage all over the place. And I was like, go grab the sages and the mugworts and the flowers and bring them in. And we built this bath together, and I let her like throw in all the salts, the magnesium and the Epsom, and we do baking soda, like we do a full soak one. And then she puts all the stuff in. And while we're in it, we're like picking leaves and calling to the fairies and setting intentions of what we want to call in to get, so it's that kind of magic. And that is our full existence in the summer. The farmer's market, the beach, we're out gardening, where our garden's like popping off usually. We're playing with the animals. We're doing animal care. It's full on, just super connected with season, cycle, nature, childhood, life. And everyone's naked, or we're swimming naked in the pool, or we're at the, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's totally what my inner child had always craved to have. What about you?
I feel like LA, the nature landscape of it is like kind of my dream location of my inner child, because it has the mountains and the beach. I grew up a lot of summers. We'd go to Maine and New Hampshire. So I have so many memories of like the smell of evergreens and pine trees and all these things around the lakes right there. And there's something so nurturing about that, especially in the summer and how cool it gets. But then we also grew up 30, 40 minutes from the beach. So a lot of my summer was spent at the beach. And so LA is so nourishing to have the hiking trails and the mountains and like go to the top of them by sunset. I found this little nook in Griffith Park. Hopefully I don't overrun it now by sharing it, but it's like called the Cedar Crest or Cedar something. And it's just all these huge evergreens, like super tall, like smells incredible, just kind of tucked away in the middle of Griffith. And then like going to the beach in the summer and just being out there the whole time, the whole day, feeling kind of like crispy and tight, and then having to like cover up throughout that, and having the stone fruits and like something to cool off, and just, yeah, really being immersed in the elements. And I think the next little chapter of that eventually will be having some sort of swimming pool or like cedar pool or something at our eventual home one day. Cause like that was, my grandma had a pool growing up. I was very, very lucky to go swimming at her house. And I just love going night swimming, especially too. It was like so cool. So I think for me, summer is all about the elements, all about just being outside and seeing it. And it's funny because I have such vivid memories of like, I say I was an only kid until I was 8 because my sister wasn't born until I was 8. So like those formative years, it was just me. I have such vivid memories of being like a camp counselor, and I had my mom buy me a clipboard, and I was like, these are the activities we're going to do, camp. And it was like my invisible camp. And so I'm really excited for kids one day because I think I'll have all the summer activities. I'll be like, okay, we're going to play tag over here. And then this is going to be this game. Like I'll be so pumped to set it all up.
You're welcome to come by anytime. I'm exhausted. You can come do that anytime. All she wants to do is play chase and tag. I'm like, 2 more minutes. That's always what I'm saying. 2 more times, and then we're going to cool it. But that's so magical.
So I want you guys to kind of start thinking about this. What were the programming and the things from summer that if they weren't what reflect your authenticity, like, okay, let them be there. Acknowledge that learning what you didn't like is also really valuable. Take the little bits of summer that did feel good. I mean, I've shared a lot of like idyllic things from my childhood, but there was a lot of emotional turmoil and other things that didn't feel good, or loneliness that didn't feel good. But instead of kind of recreating any of that, it's like, how can I hold on to the things that did feel really special? And how can I continue to add into my life, into my routines, the things that feel nourishing and authentic? And I think even just taking a quick journaling of like, okay, what did I learn from my childhood around summer, and what does my authentic self really want? And what are the things, think of the manifestation list. It's like something practical in the next 6 to 9 months. What's practical this summer? What are little ways that you can introduce that? Maybe you really want to be in Italy for the summer, but this year it's not on the books. Okay, is there an Italian style restaurant in your area? Could you bring fresh lemons and whatever to the beach? Or I don't know, like how can you recreate little micro versions of that to just start to honor that authenticity?
Agreed. I think it's just such an invitation, this challenge and this summer, to tap into this. So wherever you are in the challenge right now, this is your invitation to really, really finish this out. Like bring this juicy energy into the challenge.
Yeah. And I think too, like whether you've completed the challenge or you're even just thinking of starting and entering in, yes, there is going to be unblocking. There's going to be deep imaginings, but we intentionally put in moments for you to reflect about that inner child authenticity. Use that unblocking and then go out into the world and live. Live in the summer, live in the elements, live in the things that feel so authentic to you to help nurture you as you're doing the unblocking. And I'm really excited to see what pops up for everyone in the fall after this challenge.
Same, always.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your summer.
Okay. Here's our expander story for the week, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hi, my name is Liz, and I am so excited to share my experience during the TBM Summer Challenge. I started TBM in December of 2023, and so many amazing things have been happening for me since that time. I took through the challenge, the block, my needs don't matter. And I recognized that emotionally there was something blocking my own ability to manifest what I'm dreaming of. So I took that through the challenge, and I've made so many insights. But what I've learned most recently, as I was listening to one of the podcast episodes in the summer challenge, is the beautiful imagery of the layers and how we are going to continue to heal and grow and heal and grow throughout our lives. And the universe sends us what our souls absolutely desire and need and are working towards in this moment. But I have been feeling stuck. And I recognized, why 8 years ago in 2016 was I having these manifestations then that I want now, but I'm not having them anymore. And I realized that at that time in my life, I was doing speaking engagements and getting invitations to be talking to large groups of people. And then I decided to expand my business into other realms. And I needed to go on a spiritual journey and learn about some gifts that I was unaware of at that time. And that was new. And I wasn't as confident. I wasn't as aligned in my actions with my authentic self. And now I am. I'm so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so, so excited. And in 2016, something happened in my marriage that I recognized now was part of this block, in that my husband was not as excited as I was when I was getting these opportunities. And I wasn't understanding why. Why was that happening? And I was confused. And through the challenge and working on inner child blocks, I realized that it was a dynamic that was repeated for me from my own parents' relationship. When my mom had success at work, my dad got really scared. And underneath the block of my needs don't matter, I was taking responsibility for my partner's emotions and actions instead of letting him have his own feelings about my success. And that was blocking my path in such that a way that I was afraid that my marriage would fail if I had success. Clearly, I know that's logically not true, but emotionally it was a block. And this has been such a revelation for me. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I am so excited to continue this journey of healing, growing, learning, flying. And I thank you all so much for helping us synthesize such amazing aspects of the growth work. I really appreciate it. And I am excited to share my story and hope that it helps someone else do the same.